Welcome to Mark D. Maker. My name's Mark Taylor. And today we'll be burning in all these little feathers here. Take a second to talk about all these little feathers. So I'm using a book as a reference for those. So you need some sort of study reference to help you gauge how big to make the feathers. These feathers up in the head and the cape area here will be very slight. You'll just barely be able to see the burn marks, which will reflect light differently. These are a bit more pronounced, these feathers back here. So these will be very subtle. So last time we did the beak. Time before that we did the eyes. Those videos are available. You can go back and see those. Let's get started. All right, so I got my burner set very, very low on a number 2. So it's more of a scorching of the wood than burning of the wood. You want to test with a very, very light touch. So if it's too hot, you can pull away. And I'm coming right up to these feathers, burning deeper here in between the feathers. And it is scorching the wood, sinking it down slightly. So this part of the feather looks arched up. So I'm gonna come back with a second pass on this guy right here. I'm pushing down and scoring that wood just so slightly. And now I'm going to lightly come across like so. I'm twisting the pen in my hand because I don't want straight hard lines. I want everything curved, so I'm spinning the pen like so as I burn, and I'm also twisting the bird if I need to. First I want to get the outline of those 2 feathers on top. I'm going to come in and I'm going to curve this one in. And the environment that you're in has a lot to do with burning and the burning temperature. I have a ceiling fan on over my head on lowest setting. And that's also cooling the tip of this. You can cool it by just blowing on it. We'll cool it down if it's burning a little hot. So if you're outside and the wind's blowing, it will be cooling the tip as well. Something to consider. You won't always be able to burn at, let's say, a 2 or whatever you're used to if you're in a different environment. You'll have to test it out and make sure it's working okay. You see that down here it's not burnt that bad. It's not. I didn't burn this area as much as this, so this is lower than this. So this has will have an arching effect when the paint's on it. But very, very slight. Probably most people wouldn't even recognize it, but there are people that will notice it. Alright, so I've gone ahead and I've burned in the details up along the cape here, along under the chin, even some parts of the cheek. You can see how, if you remember this side, I used the plastic wood. Very light touch with that, and it still burns darker. We're going to put a gesso over top of this and make this bird white before we paint it, so it won't matter. But if you were just layering on paint, as some artists do their style, they'll put stain layers on, that will show up as darker. So that's something you have to keep in mind. So I use the same burning style all along up to just around the head, like a perimeter right around here. I did up in through here. And all these little tiny feathers, I'm going to kind of change direction in my burning. I have this on a low setting. And what I'm going to do is start on the outermost perimeter and pull in. Now, on these I was doing the exact opposite. I was starting up near where the feather goes under, pressing in, holding for a second, and pulling. And so you can see here how it's darker and the feathers look like they're kind of undercut. They kind of go under. We're going to be doing opposite here, and I'll show you. So we're going to place and pull. And these are super tiny little feathers. And I may come in even later at with less heat. I don't know, we'll see how this turns out. And pull a little further along. Now I think this is going to be fine actually. You still want to keep twisting. You don't want exactly straight lines. You want a little bit of curve to everything. As you're pulling these lines in, I'm twisting and trying to get a little movement in the wrist while I'm doing this. Knuckles of my fingers twisting the burning pen. careful not to let that tip rest too long in one spot because it'll burn too deep. Now I do have friends that burn at a much higher temperature. It's not as realistic. The tip won't last as long, but it's their style. That's how they do it. I can respect that. I've had this burning pen for about 30 years. Never changed the tip. Sharpen it every once in a while. Sharpen it, strop it just like a knife. It's sharp. In the links below, I'll have links to my t-shirts, got 2 t-shirts, and to buy me a coffee. So when you're done watching the video, go to the links below, check out the t-shirts, and buy me a coffee. This is sped up twice the speed. As you can see, I'm going in and pulling in all these little feathers. Now something I don't show in the video is when I'm done, I will pull small lines in between the feathers to link them together to kind of give them a little bit of flow. So if you can imagine all your feathers already burned in and just pulling a line in from one feather across into the other feather. And I just do it kind of randomly, and it helps unify and give a little bit better flow instead of looking like everything's individualized. Here's where that plastic wood is. So I'll blow on the tips, try to cool this down so it doesn't burn so dark. The plastic wood burns very easily, very quickly, and is super soft. And it is in a very fragile state when you burn it. After you seal it and put the gesso on, it'll become more stable and solid. Also, the from burning the plastic wood are terrible. They smell. I'm sure they're toxic. So be sure you have ventilation. If you've used like a 2-part epoxy, I would not recommend burning that. I would stone that and wear a mask when you do that. little tiny scorch marks right in around the eye. Okay, I'm all done burning. All burned in. And what I decided to do on the wing here, right here, is a solid piece of wood I decided to undercut and burn in. It's a little extra work, but it's well worth the time and effort. So what I did is just run this blade right along the body and then angling it with the tail up this way. Now take multiple cuts to get it deep enough. And you want to give the illusion that the edge is thin, but you want it to be as thick as possible. So you're not going to angle the wing like this, you'll cut in like that. So it gets thick really quick this way. You want to make sure you don't get it too thin out there at the leading edge. Bracing my hand for stability. Just continue to work on that till we get this undercut. I'm going to set it down here, which is a good tip. I was just trying to hold it up. But when you're cutting something like this, get much more stability bracing it on a tabletop. Something you want to take your time with this. You will have to go in and detail that with the burner. Shouldn't be a problem though. There we go. That looks pretty good. We'll just go in there with the burner and kind of clean it up a little bit. Alright, so I've carved out underneath, I've undercut this feather, sanded it very lightly, only a couple of strokes with the sandpaper just to get the fuzz out. I run my burning pen down through here to deepen it and scorch it a little bit. And now I'm going to put in the feather lines. Make sure I get them going the right way, because this is simply the underside of the feather that's on top of this one. So I'm just going to try to lay them in, pull them in quickly. Try to get them as close together as I can. Push up, this is going to be the leading edge of the feather. I'm going to go all the way up the feather. Just those little marks. And we're looking pretty good. Alright, so here's the underside, all done. We're done burning. Next time we'll put the legs and the feet in and get it primed. Please like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.